The Dallas Stars continue to take steps in the right direction, proving that they're a relevant team in today's NHL. On today's show, I'm going to break down last night's big win over the Colorado Avalanche at home to cap off a 3-game homestand. And then at the end of the show, I'll give you a little preview of tonight's matchup in Arizona against the Coyotes. All of this coming up on a very special weekend edition of Locked On Stars.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis, and you are locked on the Dallas Stars on this Saturday. That's right, folks. Saturday, doing my very first weekend episode here at Locked On Stars. It is November 27th, the day after Black Friday. Still Thanksgiving weekend. I've wanted to do a few weekend episodes before since taking over as host of the show, but just due to my schedule with weekends being crazy, sometimes it hasn't worked out. But I was at the game last night in the press box with fellow other, members of the media covering the Dallas Stars, as well as a few Colorado Avalanche members, and felt very good about this game. Have a little bit more free time this weekend with it being a holiday weekend, and thought, why the heck not record an episode? And it's a perfect time to do it, with the game happening last night and then another game tonight. But before we jump into everything, I got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Stat Hero. Stat Hero is the first of its kind in daily fantasy sports, a platform where it's you versus the house in head-to-head fantasy matchups. Winner take all. So sign up for free right now at stathero.com/hockey and use the promo code hockey for a 100% deposit match. Also, before we jump in, got to say thank you for stopping by today's episode of Locked On Stars. The sixth episode, or I guess the fifth episode of this week, because I did take Thanksgiving off. So I guess it all evens out. You're still getting 5 episodes this week. But thank you for stopping by the show, whether this is your first time here or you are a recurring listener. Thank you for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. Be sure to subscribe and follow the podcast if you do not do so already, whether that is on your favorite podcasting platform or on YouTube. But without any further hesitation, let's get right down to business, talking about Dallas's huge win over the Colorado Avalanche last night at the American Airlines Center, 3-1, closing out their 3-game homestand, the right way, beating 3 very good teams, playing very solid against all of them, pretty much dominating, I think you could say. They played St. Louis, Edmonton, and Colorado all in a row at home. Went 3-0 and outscored them 11-3, only allowing 1 goal in each of those games. So very impressive effort from the boys in green and black after a pretty miserable loss in Minnesota last Thursday. But we won't talk about that. And it was a huge night for the Stars. And I think the biggest key to this game was the hot start that we saw from this Dallas team. Obviously, if you watch the game, even if you were 2-3 minutes late, you missed the majority of the goals that were scored in tonight's matchup. Joe Pavelski got right down to business. And not only did he, put the Stars up 2-0 to start the game in the first 90 seconds, the second of those goals was his 400th career goal. Another huge milestone for Joe Pavelski this season. He's the 10th American-born player to do so. He's still currently chasing Mike Madonna, another, former Dallas Stars player. If you're listening to the show, surely Mike Madonna, his number 9, hangs in the rafters at the American Airlines Center. One of, if not the most recognizable name in the franchise, beloved by every Stars fan. Mike Madonna currently leads American-born players across NHL history with 561 career goals. Not sure if Pavs will get there, but, love to see him try. He certainly is not slowing down at age 37, continuing to play very well. And let's hear what Joe Pavelski had to say in his press conference after the game. Got to be in the room for the interviews, the post-game press conferences. So let's hear what Joe had to say about the hot start and his 400th career goal.
Yeah, it was fun. Obviously, I knew it was close, and it was fun. It was fun to how it happened, I think. Just bang, bang, and, get a couple quick ones was nice. But it was a fun night. It was great. We got the win. It makes it that much better, I think. And, it's just a long career, I guess, at times, and puck went in the net a few of those years, and it's just fun to be there. The first one was coming around the net, it's kind of laying there, able to get a stick on it, and the second one was a nice play by Roop, and it lined up perfect where I could shoot through the screen there and catch him off guard. So it was fun. It was fun to do at home in front of these fans. Great night too with Thanksgiving yesterday. It was a game that had a lot of energy right from the start, and I think guys were ready. Yeah, at first when I went in, I didn't even think about it. I didn't realize it's been sitting at a few goals too shy for a little while. It's kind of one of those moments that just kind of you forget about things. You're just playing the game, you're reacting, and and then I saw Robo trying to go get the puck, and that's kind of when it clicked, I guess.
Obviously, love to hear the humility from Joe Pavelski. I think that is totally in line with who he has appeared to be as a player in his career up to this point. And it's a great to hear him, be excited about the moment. It's a moment that he got to share with his son on the bench. But ultimately, I think he knows, it's a great accomplishment for him personally. I'm sure, on the inside, he's very proud of it for all the hard work that he's done throughout his career. Obviously, not being a high draft pick to be where he is now is nothing short of incredible. But, he very team-centered guy. And I think, that's a guy that Pavelski's been his whole career. And obviously, a guy like him wanting to win a Stanley Cup with this Dallas Stars organization, that's the big goal. The other accolades and achievements are nice, but those are just things for a guy like Pavelski that you put off to the side and you keep chasing the ultimate goal, which is to lift the Stanley Cup trophy at the end of the season with your teammates. So big congratulations to Joe, and congrats to his family and those that support him and are a part of his camp. For another great accolade, but obviously do love to hear his response, looking to continue to improve as a team and not just worry about his own personal achievement or accolades. And Jason Robertson also, played a role in some of those early goals, getting the offense going, starting hot. So let's take a moment and listen to what Jason Robertson had to say about Dallas's hot start.
Yeah, I think that kind of set the tone, getting those first two. That was really quick. I don't think anyone expected to get bang goals right away, but definitely we'll take that and build on it in the first and second, and then the third, kind of try to shut them down. But it really kind of set the tone for the game, and it was a great start. Yeah, I think our check-in's been the best thing. Reloading. I don't know how many automated rushes they're getting, but certainly they're not getting much, right? So everyone's just reloading, playing the right way, back checking hard, and staying above their guy, which is what we always wanted to do, and now it's great to see everyone showing it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Jason Robertson touched on, was just setting the tone early. And I think, obviously scoring goals as quick as Dallas did and scoring two of them as quick as they did very much sets the tone against any team, but especially a good team like Colorado. Probably throws a team like that out of their rhythm, makes it a little harder for them to get things going, which was the case, especially early on in the game in the first and even a little bit in the second period. Colorado really struggled to get anything going consistently offensively. They did have a few opportunities on the power play, but Dallas's penalty kill played phenomenal last night. Really loved what I saw from the penalty kill unit. Jake Ottinger said that he laughed after the hot start, just kind of in disbelief of how Joe Pavelski gets two quick goals, bang bang on the board. And he said that in his post-game presser, and we'll hear from Ottinger in a little bit regarding his performance and the defensive performance. But I really like what Jason had to say about the checking from the team. I think that his line especially did forechecking very, very well, especially early in the game, even when they weren't scoring goals in the first 90 seconds. They were playing very well during their time on the ice across the board, and it very well, they could have made that lead 3 or 4-0. The puck just wasn't finding the back of the net in those instances. But some of the best play that we've seen from that Hintz, Pavelski, Robertson line so far this season. So hopefully we will continue to see more of that. I think that those three are really starting to click. Obviously, they built a little bit of chemistry last season, but now they're getting a full season together. Robertson obviously missing the first few games of the season, but he's back. He's healthy. All three of those guys look great. They're all playing very well, catching fire in several different ways, whether it's goal scoring, assist, or, just playing solid hockey and forechecking really well. Love to see those three guys as the top line starting to put things together and leading this Dallas team to victory over the past few games. And it was also really cool. A lot of Jason Robertson's family got to be in attendance at last night's game and get to watch him play really for the first time, because obviously with COVID last season, a lot of the arenas, either had very limited seating capacity with fans or no fans at all. and so difficult for Jason's family, living in a different area of the country to see him play. But with Thanksgiving, a lot of his mom's side of the family, he said in his post-game presser, I think about 12, 13 members of his family got to be in attendance. So that is very, very cool for Jason Robertson. Well, coming up next, we're going to take a deeper dive into this victory and talk about, another area of the game that I think was really impressive, and that is the defense. But before we do that, I do want to take a moment and say thank you to one of the sponsors of today's episode, and that is Stat Hero. No one plays daily fantasy sports to lose. Winning feels so much better. But traditional fantasy sports are long-term losing proposition because you never know who or what you're up against. Stat Hero is the first of its kind in daily fantasy sports, a platform where it's you versus the house in head-to-head fantasy matchups. Winner take all. And here's the crazy part. Stat Hero shows you their lineups before you play, and you handpick the team that you want to see face them one-on-one. This never-before-seen innovation of fantasy sports and sports betting hybrid has Stat Hero players clocking odds that are over 4 times better. Why? Because you don't have to compete against thousands of experts or unknowns. Stat Hero puts you in control of your fate. With Stat Hero, you are in control of the stakes, and you decide how much you're going to play for, and Stat Hero has no choice but to take it because they're daring you to beat them. Stat Hero head-to-head is what daily fantasy should be, one-on-one. Sign up for free right now at stathero.com/hockey and use promo code hockey for a 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/hockey and promo code hockey for a 100% match. stathero.com/hockey, promo code hockey. Terms and conditions apply. Jumping right back into today's episode of Locked On Stars, your first listen of the day, I do want to take a moment and highlight the defense that the Dallas Stars have played, in over this homestand in general, but more specifically in last night's game against the Colorado Avalanche. Jake Ottinger with another very, very good performance. We did see him get a little dinged up in the middle of the second period, taking a questionable hit from Nicholas Obkubel. I believe that's how you say his name. I know they said it during the game, but in the moment I have it written down. So hopefully I said that name right. Colorado Avalanche player kind of hit Jake in the head. Jake was down for a little bit laying by the net, bounced right back up, went over to the bench for, a media timeout, and then skated back out to the net, but then had to be pulled back in. He said later in his post-game presser that was just standard protocol for the NHL, that there were some NHL officials, people that work for the National Hockey League in the stands who saw the hit and said, hey, you need to check out Jake Ottinger. So props to the NHL for making sure that Jake was okay, and taking the necessary steps, to have him checked out, doing just some typical concussion protocol tests that they do in the preseason when players are all healthy and making sure the numbers match. Obviously, Jake did appear to be okay as he came back out in the third period to finish out the game. Saving 20 shots that came against him, which is no easy feat, even when you haven't been taken out, but to be pulled from the game, kind of lose your momentum, lose your rhythm, lose your sense of the game, and then get put back in and put up the performance he did was nothing short of spectacular. And even before the injury, he was, pitching a shutout. And I think he really, really deserved the shutout. And he's going to get one eventually this season if he keeps playing the way that he has been. I think he could have easily gotten it tonight if he had not been pulled. And obviously the goal he did give up was not actually on the power play, but may as well have been, as Colorado had pulled Darcy Kemper out of the goal and were playing 6-on-5 at that point. So always difficult to defend, but props to Jake for playing a great game despite a scary moment where he did take a shot to the head. And let's go ahead and take a listen to what Jake had to say after the game in terms of his health and just the team as a whole over these last several games.
I'm feeling great. Yeah, I feel good. Obviously took a hit there, and it's just part of the protocol to, when they think you took a hard hit, to pull you out. And obviously the NHL cares about the players and their health, and I think it's important that we have that in place. And obviously you never want to come out of a game, but you got to do what you got to do. Holtz came in and shut the door and got cleared and went back in. So I think if you look back like 2 years ago when we went to the finals, I think that's we're playing like that team right now, and we just need to keep that going. Obviously, it's nice to win on home ice, and now we got to go do it on the road. I think the biggest part of goaltending is confidence. I think, I'm very confident right now, and but obviously it's a tough position, and that kind of comes and goes, with wins and losses and stuff. So I'm just trying to build on the stuff I do well, and just continue to work on little stuff. I have so much stuff that I want to get better at, and it's a never-ending process for me to just keep getting better, and I'm just happy, to be helping out. And these guys have just been unbelievable in front of me, and it's just been a great home stretch here.
So obviously we heard from Jake that he appears to be healthy, which is great news for us as Stars fans, great news for him, great news for the team. Love to see him healthy. Hopefully he will continue to play well as he continues to get chances to start for this Dallas Stars team. And I think he made a very interesting comment about this team as of this moment in time. He compared them to the bubble team back in the 2020 playoffs in Edmonton. And I think that's a very interesting comparison. And, I think at this moment in time, it's fairly accurate. I mean, obviously, there's guys that were on that team that aren't on the team now. Your Blake Comos, your Andrew Coglianos, your Jason Dickinsons, Jamie Alexiak, just to name some. There's probably some other guys that were on that team that I'm forgetting. But yeah, obviously guys look different, but I think just kind of the swagger that this team has at the moment and kind of the mojo that they have behind them as a team is very similar. A team that maybe some people were skeptical of, and obviously people were skeptical of the Stars in the bubble, especially the way that they played in the round robin games leading up to the actual playoffs of, that fall 2020 sequence. The Stars had been playing some questionable hockey as of right now over the past few weeks, losing to some teams they shouldn't have been, or being in some close games with some teams they shouldn't have been, or getting blown out by Minnesota on the road. But they're starting to pull things together, and they're doing so at the right time. This is, a time of year where we're really starting to see the true colors of every team in this league, of who's actually going to be competitive come playoff time and who's maybe going to fall off as the season continues to, kind of drag on as we get into the dog days of the winter. But I think Dallas is starting to put the pieces together at the right time, obviously with the offense, but even the defense over the past few games has been phenomenal as of late. And even Jason Robertson said, as a team, the defense is better in his post-game presser, and says, that Jake is, a huge part of that over these past few games. That everyone in the locker room trusts him. And that's a huge, huge boost for his confidence. And Jake even said in his post-game presser that, a part of being a goalie in this league is confidence, and confidence affects a guy so much every time he takes the ice and is between the pipes for a team. And so would love to see this team continue to support Jake Ottinger the way that they have over these past few games, making it difficult for the opposition to score. And I think, this team is going to be just fine in this game against Arizona, and then even over their next few games over the next week or so, because they're going to have some tough competition on Tuesday when the Carolina Hurricanes come to town. That's going to be a really, really interesting game to see. Hopefully, Jake Ottinger plays that game, which I don't imagine why he wouldn't. Going to be another really, really great test for Jake Ottinger as he plays another really good team. I feel like over this past week, I've been saying the best team in the NHL, or one of the best teams in the NHL, and the Carolina Hurricanes certainly fit that script. But who doesn't fit that script? The Arizona Coyotes. And that's who the Dallas Stars play today. And after we take another break and talk about another sponsor of today's episode, I'm going to give you a quick preview of tonight's matchup between Dallas and the Arizona Coyotes. But again, like I said before we do that, got to say thank you to another sponsor of today's episode, and that is BetOnline. It's Thanksgiving weekend, and we all know what that means: football. And nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered all holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sports action this holiday season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code Locked On. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college basketball, NHL, boxing, UFC, and even your favorite Vegas casino games. So don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And to close out today's special weekend edition of Locked On Stars, I do want to take a moment and give you a quick preview of tonight's matchup against the Arizona Coyotes. Dallas has not had very many back-to-back games so far this season. The only one that's coming to mind for me right now was the second and third game of the season, Boston, and then Ottawa. There probably was another one that I'm forgetting. Someone could point it out to me later on social media for all I know, or maybe that's the only one. But nonetheless, Dallas has not really had too many back-to-back games so far this season. At least the one that I can think of was on the road, and there was some traveling involved, which is going to be the case. The team did leave for Arizona right after their game against Colorado last night. So they traveled throughout the night, and they've been in Arizona since this morning when you're hearing this episode. But it's going to be interesting to see how this team comes out, because obviously Arizona is a rebuilding team, not one of the premier teams in the league this season. But Dallas does need to stay sharp in order to come away with 2 big points. We're going to talk about how crucial those points are kind of at the end of this segment. But, in the NHL is just like any other professional sports league. You're going to have the really good teams and you're going to have the really bad teams. But just because a team is bad, that just means that, that they have that they're the worst at the moment, but they still have professional athletes on their team and they still have the capability to beat any given team in the league. There's a reason that these teams are all in the same league. Obviously, Arizona is just in the midst of rebuilding, but they do have some talented players and they do have the capability to, win this game. This is kind of a trap game, if you will, for the Dallas Stars. Coming off a win at home, having to travel on the road, playing a team that they are better than and that they should beat. And if Dallas isn't careful, they could fall behind early, fall into a trap, and potentially drop this game when it's a game that they easily can win and probably should win. And let's go ahead and take a moment and listen to some audio from Coach Rick Bowness about this upcoming game.
Yeah, it is. It will be. And they haven't played since Wednesday, so we know that. But we've got to start winning some games on the road. And we're 3-5-1. We got to do better than that on the road. So, yeah, it's a challenge, so that's okay.
So Coach Bowness did mention that, Arizona has not played since Wednesday, which was a 5-3 loss to the Edmonton Oilers at home. Edmonton, after playing Dallas on Tuesday, traveled to Arizona, but came out on top over the Coyotes. And, good teams, like Bowness said, in order for this team to be great, they need to win on the road. Good teams win at home. Good teams find a way to win every now and then, but the great teams will find a way to win at home and on the road. Dallas has not done that super well so far this season, obviously, and a few nice wins on the road like Calgary, New York, and even Pittsburgh. But they got to find a way to do it consistently, and especially against teams that, like I said, that they're better than. Arizona still, a lot of things to figure out for them this season, but just as a franchise in general. But they do, they've made some games really interesting this season, especially over the past week or so, or 10 days, maybe 2 weeks or so. They beat St. Louis 3-2 back on November 16th. They lost in a shootout to the Columbus Blue Jackets on the 18th. Then they beat Detroit in overtime on the 20th. And then they lost in overtime to the LA Kings on the 21st. And then after that, they played Edmonton and lost 5-3, but still were playing pretty competitive until Edmonton kind of pulled away late in that game. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and that top line for the Edmonton Oilers were just a little too much for the Coyotes to handle. But they do have some talented players on their team, like Shane Gostisbehere, a longtime Philadelphia Flyer. I say long time, hasn't been in the league as long as some veterans like Suter and Pavelski, but a guy who had spent his whole career with the Philadelphia Flyers has recently come to Arizona and is now the point leader for this Coyotes team with 15 and 12 of those coming off assists. So a guy that knows, where to be on the ice and how to set up his team and how to make good, high-quality plays as a hockey player and has a really good hockey IQ. So Shane Gostisbehere, definitely a guy to be on the lookout for in tonight's matchup, as well as Clayton Keller, the 7th overall pick back in the 2016 draft. He is the team leader in goals with 5. He also has 8 assists so far this season and is one of the organization's many young promising stars, both at the NHL and AHL level. I believe Keller's 23 years old, so a young guy, a lot of speed, a lot of versatility out on the ice. None of these guys have put up staggering numbers. I feel like the Stars have played, a lot of guys like Kadri, McDavid, Draisaitl, Tarasenko on the Blues, guys that, have the capability to put up big numbers. But I feel like Arizona was one of the first teams in a while that I've scouted and looked at before recording an episode and haven't been overwhelmed by the numbers. And obviously so at the bottom of the league in pretty much every statistical category, including on their special teams. The Coyotes' penalty kill percentage is 31st in the league at 68%, only above the Vancouver Canucks. And their power play is not much better. Their power play percentage is ranked at 26th in the National Hockey League at only 14%. So this is going to be a huge night for Dallas on special teams. They need to take advantage on the power play. And then if they do find themselves on the penalty kill, they need to do what they did against Colorado and just play sound defense. Clear the puck when you get the chance. Make it hard for the Coyotes to establish any kind of rhythm on the man advantage and frustrate them and make it hard for them to get shots on the net. And like I said, take advantage on the power play as well when Arizona is on the penalty kill, because 31st in the league is not good by any means, and something that a team like Dallas, who has a top 3 power play unit right now, can certainly take advantage of. So if Dallas is able to draw a lot of penalties and, execute well on the power play, this could be a very, very easy win for the Stars. I say easy. I feel like no win is easy in the National Hockey League. But, I think they have an opportunity to, snag a lead early and build a lead and establish it and just hold on to it if they're able to take advantage on the man advantage. And I think Dallas absolutely needs this win in order to, make some noise in the Central Division and make the division a little more chaotic, because Saturday is a busy day for the division. I think Minnesota and Chicago are the only 2 teams not playing. A win would give Dallas 22 points. And here's kind of how the rest of the Central Division schedule shakes out today, I guess. I think I said tomorrow, but you're hearing this on Saturday. So today, Nashville with 23 points plays at Colorado, who has 21 points on Saturday today. So that's going to be an interesting game. I'm not sure as far as, if the Stars are going to win, who I want to win that game. I guess Nashville. So that way Dallas can at least jump a team, because even if Nashville loses, Dallas can't jump Nashville because they'll have 23. Dallas at most can come away at the end of the night with 22. The Jets do play at Calgary. The Jets currently have 22 points. If the Jets lose and Dallas wins, they're going to be tied with points with the Winnipeg Jets. The St. Louis Blues currently sit at 23 points and play at home against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So another team that Dallas can't quite jump with the win, but especially if St. Louis loses, Dallas only 1 point behind them. So things could get very, very interesting over the next few days if the Dallas Stars continue to rattle off some wins, and they could be, making a serious jump up in the rankings in the Central Division and just in the NHL in general. And hopefully we would see them climb the power ranking lists a little bit here at the Locked On Podcast Network. They've been sitting at the 24, 25 spot over the past couple of weeks. And so some huge wins over, tonight and then even on Tuesday against Carolina would bode very, very well for Dallas in the eyes of the hockey community. I do imagine that Braden Holtby will get the start for Dallas just to give Jake Ottinger some rest. Obviously, it would be very hard for him to play a back-to-back, and also just to make sure that he's totally fine after taking that shot to the head. Like I said, I do think he's okay, based on what he said in the press conference. He sounded okay and looked fine. I don't think that he's rattled or has a concussion. I don't think that they would have put him back out on the ice with a concussion, but I think he deserves some rest, and he probably needs some rest. And Braden Holtby played fine for the little bit that he came in against Colorado last night, and I would be totally fine with him being back in the net. I think that he was falling off a little bit before he was day-to-day on the injury list. But, I think maybe a break, he's kind of got to hit the refresh button. And especially a team like Arizona, who can struggle to score at times, I think that he could have a nice bounce back night to build a little bit of his confidence as well. As far as predictions go, I predict that Jason Robertson will score first for the Dallas Stars in a 3-1 win. Would love to see Dallas score more than 3 goals, but just playing on a back-to-back on the road, I imagine that they'll probably get about 3 goals, and that they'll probably surrender a goal at some point to the Arizona Coyotes. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Be sure to tune back in on Monday for a recap of tonight's game. I promise no surprise episode will be coming out on Sunday, just with scheduling and everything like that. Won't be able to get an episode out then, but I will get an episode out on Monday to recap this game. Thank you again for making Locked On Stars your first listen of the day. Now go make your second listen of the day the Locked On Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Be sure to subscribe and follow the podcast. If you do not do so already, you can find Locked On Stars on your favorite podcasting platform, as well as on YouTube as well. I think we just crossed 60 subscribers on the YouTube channel, so thank you guys for that. Love to continue to see the growth on the channel there. Be sure to follow me on social media as well. You can find me on Twitter at Dane_Lewis. That's at DANE 2_LEWIS. You can also find the show on Twitter at Locked On Stars. Give us a follow there. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for listening. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy, time with family if you're still with them. Maybe you slipped away for a little bit to listen to today's episode, or maybe you're sitting around with the fam listening to today's episode of Locked On Stars. But I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you back here on Monday.